Dr. Genelle Morris, the Superintendent of the Olean City School District in New York State, is joining our podcast today. Dr. Morris began as Superintendent in Olean City School District in July of 2022 after 30 years as an educator in the Buffalo and Rochester, New York City districts. Welcome, Genelle.
Thank you.
For starters, could you give listeners a picture of the Olean City School District?
Oh, it's a great, great school district. It is nestled in the southern tier. We're about an hour and a half south of Buffalo, New York. So we're in a beautiful little valley, which protects us from the lake effect snow. So it's a beautiful little school district. We are a small city school district, but we have lots of rural characteristics. We have about 1,700 kids. We have 4 schools. And we have, we have 4 schools. We have 1,700 kids and just a really great staff that work there. It's a great team, great board. Everything is wonderful about our little school district.
So, small city, some rural.
Yes.
And you brought your experiences from Buffalo and Rochester. So
correct.
Talk about how do you figure your background and experiences in those 2 settings impacts your role in the superintendency here?
The advantage it gave me was I knew a lot of the systems workings that would be expected from the role. So yes, it was my first superintendency, but I had had several leadership roles in education. So I had the experience from Buffalo, I had the experience from Rochester that helped prep me for a superintendency. So what that means, just practically, is a lot of things that might come down the pike that would throw an administrator off. I was like, okay, we got this.
This is looking like a big deal to you, but
yeah, it's really not. And so that has been able to give me a level of calm. It's been able to give a level of assurance that we can handle these things. I mean, not to say that they aren't challenging sometimes, that they aren't something that, would give you at least pause to say, are you serious? Why is this happening? It also gave me the larger scope to say, okay, this is really small. We got this, and we can handle this, and we've been able to do that.
I'm imagining, and I could be off, so correct me if I am, but I'm guessing in those larger systems, tasks that were usually separated out into several people having one of those tasks.
Yes.
That you're in a position now where those kind of all come to you?
Yeah, well, a lot of it comes to me. I'm very fortunate that I have a very good cabinet team. So it's one assistant superintendent and my business official. We're a really good team. So a lot of times it'll roll up to one of them, and then, we work really well together where, we can parse it out. I can jump in, they can take parts on as well. So it's been a really good relationship between the 3 of us. But you're absolutely right. So when I was in Buffalo, I was in charge of data and assessment, and that's all I did. Right now, I'm doing the safety plan. I'm doing the professional development plan. We're looking at curriculum, stuff that I never had to touch at all when I was in Buffalo or Rochester.
Yeah. So that's a good stepping stone building blocks to a smaller place where it has to all come together.
Yeah, and I love it.
So I went online and I looked at your system strategic plan.
Okay.
And there were 2 pieces that seemed of special interest to me that I'd like to explore with you. And the first one was a focus on progressive and enriching learning was the term. Yes. And so I like that term, but I'm wondering if you'd expand on what that means.
Sure. So when we were trying to identify the elements of our plan that we wanted to highlight annually to get us to our goals in 5 years, We knew we wanted to focus on student achievement, but we also understood that there were several students who had different needs, and we needed to be able to work with our students regardless of the foundation that they had in knowledge when they were coming to our buildings. We needed to be able to be responsive as the teachers and the educators to be able to meet them where they were and bring them up to where we expected them to be. That was part of the progressive learning. Our special education students particularly fell within this lens, and that required us this year to do some really hard looks at how are we meeting the needs of our students with disabilities, how are we meeting the needs of our students who may have differing needs within the district, and how can we adjust and make sure that we are meeting their needs across the system.
Am I hearing a raised expectation on the system?
It is. It certainly is. So one of our goals in the strategic plan was high academic achievement for all of our students. So that was making sure that the instruction and the delivery of it that we are providing for our students meets minimally the standards set by New York State. And so that required our team to do some hard looks at what curriculum we're providing. Are we making sure that our instructional practices align with that expectation? And we did this year a really important project where we got a key group of stakeholders together, and they just did a really big deep dive into our ELA curriculum. So this year we spent all of our time looking at that. They selected a brand new curriculum, but it was after this key group of stakeholders that included teachers, administrators, board members, members of the community. They came in and they looked at what we're currently offering, what is out there, how does it align with the new science of reading standards, and then they were able to make a selection that we are now going to be rolling out in the upcoming school year. So in order to meet the target of goal number 2, which was higher academic achievement for all of our students, we really had to say, is what we're providing to our students right now even going to get them on the path to be able to meet that goal? And we were able to say that it wasn't, but we were able to go through the work to get us there.
And I'm guessing the second one that I pulled is connected. And it was the need for continuous educator learning.
Yes.
So what do you sense as superintendent's responsibility as it connects to that?
Oh, yeah. Well, as I mentioned, we had to go through this deep introspection, looking as a system, are we providing everything we need to make sure that we are having our students prepared to meet our goals and targets in 5 years? And one of the things we needed to do was to either develop or reinforce the skills of our teachers and our administrators. So that came along with the professional development. Are we going to invest in our teachers? Our teachers are fantastic. Our staff are fantastic. We need them also to be able to meet that standard of learning that we're expecting from our students. And they can't do that without having that professional development that's targeted at needs that we have within our system.
Can you expand on how do you share that expectation with staff? That's an expectation the system has.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, we do, like most districts, we do an expectation setting get together where we bring everybody together and we tell everybody this is the expectation and the target for the upcoming school year. So with that, though, comes a lot of scaffolded professional development. So last year, we really focused on belonging. And this year, we're going to be still carrying that theme through. We also told everybody we have our new strategic plan, and here are some of the things that are coming from that. Now that we've gotten the selection finalized for our new ELA curriculum, with that comes, all right, we've got brand new shiny textbooks. We have to learn how to best deliver that to our students to make sure that they have the best success within that new curriculum. So I think at the beginning of the year, it sets the stage. And then not just belonging, but, this is our new academic focus that we need to make sure that we're expanding and refining moving forward. As I said, many of our teachers, they are really on it. They are doing what they have to do. Our kids are really benefiting from that enriching experience. And we just need to make sure that as we're bringing in new curriculum, as we're setting new expectations, that the teachers are prepared to help us make sure that that happens.
There's a phrase that I use in my work that there is no mountaintop to teaching.
That's right.
It's
That's
a profession where you don't have to worry about mastery setting in prior to retirement.
That's right. That's right.
You think you got there, but everything you've learned to get you to this step just opens up that that whole new area for you to be striving for.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I found a past podcast that you had been on, and you made it a statement that I was hoping you'd expand on. The statement you made was, everything hinges around relationships.
Oh my gosh.
So
that is true.
How does that belief influence your day-to-day task, as well as maybe even longer-term planning?
Well, the idea of relationship building has been critical in this role, but in every role I've held up until this point. But for the superintendency specifically, the relationships that I have with key constituents are critical for success. So, for example, my board, we work so closely and well together on initiatives to support the success of the district. That relationship is key. So I continue to cultivate that relationship, because without us working together well, the district suffers. It's important that we are on the same page. We establish our goals. We have that opportunity to gel and be able to make sure that we're providing the support that the district needs. And once again, if that relationship doesn't work, everything, doesn't work. And then, every single team that comes under the umbrella of the district, it's important that we have good relationships. We don't always agree, but I try to be as straight a shooter as possible. I try to let them know, when I say this is a teacup, this is a teacup. If I say it's a coffee cup, it is a coffee cup. And to the extent of my interpretation of it, that's what it is. I try to be as consistent as possible. We have lots of things that come up, and, people might feel anxious or they might have issues. We try to stay as consistent as possible. That's part of our relationship, so that they can at least feel calm that we've got that attunement to what's going on and that we are going to handle it. And I think that relationship between the people in the district has really helped to calm waters and such. And the relationship is truly the basic building block of success within the superintendency. It truly is.
There's a word I heard you use there that I kind of want to circle back. You used the word teams. Mm-hmm. Is that a part of your approach?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there's nothing I can do by myself, and there's nothing anyone else can do by themselves. And in order for our organization to experience success. And it's even more pronounced at a small district. So in a small district, like we just discussed, you are in charge of multiple things. It's not just, you're in charge of data and assessment. And without that teamwork between you and the other stakeholders, there is no way we can ensure success for our kids. So our kids deserve us working well together. Our kids deserve that type of teaming, and we try to stick to that.
What are you seeing as some of the most important current issues for school leaders to be addressing? Certainly within your area, but maybe beyond?
Well, I'd start with safety. We have examined and have been presented with multiple safety elements that we need to look at further. A lot of them require us to think courageously. A lot of them expect us to think in ways that are in alignment with the law, but maintain the safety of the community, with the students, with the buildings, with everybody. You have to maintain that positionality that I am here to keep everyone safe. And once again, I can't do it alone, but you have to maintain that focus. Safety is a huge thing because in prep programs, we're not learning about,
right.
You need to know this about cybersecurity. You need to know this about facilities management in the securities lens. But it's critical for every single school district to be maintained with that focus. So I think that's a huge, huge element that a superintendent has to always keep in their forefront of their mind. And for me, one of the ways I do that is I maintain the district level safety plan. I could have delegated it. It could have been given to somebody else, but that's been an area of my focus from the beginning. For example, Olean High School was the site of the very first school shooting in the United States. We keep that forefront in our mind. We want to make sure that people feel safe when they're coming in our buildings, and we need to make sure that whatever we do on a day-to-day operational basis is keeping that in mind. And I think my team has really been sharpened through that lens, and they really are using that as a focus to make sure that everyone feels safe in our buildings. That's one.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got another one?
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one.
I got plenty of
them. That's a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one. So then there's staffing. Right now we are operating in a positionality of, we don't want to accept just anybody who knocks at the door, but we're also dealing with staffing shortages that are, I'd say unprecedented. So we have to be as creative as possible, but still maintaining that lens. We need to put the right and the best teacher in front of our students. And so it's a challenge right now. It's hard to find people who are prepared and the best to put in front of our students. And we really have a big challenge with that right now.
And that's a pretty big region that is dealing with that issue.
Yes. Regionally, we're just at the point right now where we're stealing good educators from each other. I mean, we all know each other in the region. Like, I'm stealing teacher A, darn it. And then you steal teacher A, I'm going to steal teacher C. And they're like, okay. So, I mean, it's one of those things that just come along with the job. But, we need teachers. They need teachers. And because of the shortage, it's causing this hopping around the region. I would hope we move more towards center, where, people are able to kind of feel comfortable to stay where they are, and then we can make sure that we have the best teacher in front of our students. It also doesn't help our fifth goal in our strategic plan when we invest a lot of resource and professional development and time into these educators who will then be in alignment with our plan, and just for them to leave. So we want to attract the best teachers. We want to have them stay with our kids who are amazing. And we want to make sure that they are prepared to be the best teacher in front of our students.
And have the opportunity to get better.
And absolutely have the best opportunity to get better.
Years ago, there was a piece I stole from Tom Peters' writing, where he said that the only guarantee we could make to employees today is that when you leave, you'll have a better resume than when you came.
Well,
so
there you go.
We're going to guarantee to grow you, and then if you can recruit the kind of people who find that opportunity to grow is part of the reward of working within your system.
Yes,
it brings the pieces together.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
There's another piece I'd ask you to explore with me. I frequently talk about the difference between leading improvement and leading change. So for me, I describe leading improvement as finding ways to get better at what it is we're doing.
Right.
And then the need to lead change when getting better at what we're doing isn't sufficient,
Right.
we really need to look at a different way of doing it.
Right.
And I'm wondering if there's anything that you're tackling that has you looking at those two lenses of the difference between just trying to get it better or trying to look for building something else in its place.
Well, I think the curriculum example that I shared earlier is a good example of that. We could have continued to improve what we were doing. What we were doing was our educators over time had separately developed their own curriculum. They had separately developed their own instructional approach. That was fine, and our students were learning when presented that curriculum, but that didn't always align with what the state expected. And so, the teachers were teaching their heart out. They were all using different materials, but in the end, it's not getting the movement on the state assessments that we need. And so by having this approach of looking at our curriculum and looking at how we were doing things and recognizing that we needed to change, not improve what we were doing, it was a very courageous conversation that was teacher-led. And they really wanted to find the way to do this better. They really wanted to find the way to meet the needs of the students and make sure that they were meeting the standards. And that's when we embraced, we need to change. It's not time to improve what we've been doing. Not that you haven't been working very hard on what you've done up to this point, but now we're going to do this together. We're going to do it aligned with the standards, and our students will be able to better demonstrate what they've learned based on the assessments that we have.
I find that sets up the need to be able to celebrate where we've gotten at the same time that we're realizing that's not it.
Right.
So
Right.
We build our confidence and we build our courage
Yeah.
by celebrating what we're accomplishing.
Yeah.
And as we're looking through that lens, we look at where we could be, need to be, want to be,
Right.
and not see that as a negative.
Right. And that's so important. I really needed our team to have that moment of introspection and to have that realization, and they did. It wasn't me prompting them or nudging them there. They were able to come to that collectively and say, we really want to make sure that we're coming up with the best solution for our students. And what was also impressive about it was it wasn't just a core group of teachers from, let's say, the elementary group, which is where we concentrated this new curriculum change. It was a collaborative effort vertically. Like, we had students and we had representation from the secondary level, from our English department at the high school, who's looking at seniors and looking to say, here are the needs we're detecting when they get to us. How can we make sure we're addressing that in this elementary curriculum that you're selecting? It became a larger, but more importantly, authentic conversation between our educators, and they were very honest with one another. They put so much work into this. 20 hours per team member at least were invested in this. But that was just really refreshing to see that they were willing to roll up their sleeves and do that, because they were able to recognize we have to make sure that we're embracing change, not improvement, to make sure that we move the needle on this.
So I like when you use the word introspection. There's a word I'm kind of putting on top of it is vulnerable.
Yeah.
They had to make themselves vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So what do you think you did to create that environment where people were comfortable being vulnerable?
I'd say that I was able to empower them to do this. I told them at the beginning, you have a budget. That was important because we didn't want them to go through the
Come up with a solution. We can't afford
solution, and we can't do it. And they were like, wow. And it was a much larger budget than they had initially expected. But I said, no, this is really important. So we dedicated the resources to it. We empowered them to make the decision. I had a notion of where I wanted them to go, and I respected the will of the group. That was hard for me at some point because I had strong opinions, but it was important to hear what they said. It was important to respect where they were able to get to after that period of vulnerability because, like you said, vulnerability gave them the ability to say, here's where we've been strong, here's where we've struggled, and in the end, I've only been there 2 years. They've lived with what they've done far longer than I have been aware of the situation. So I think one of the things I was able to do was to say, all right, I'm going to give you the freedom and the authority to go forth and do this. I'm going to give you the money to get it done, and I'm willing to support this going forward. And I did that. So I think that's as far of an impact as I had on it, but long term.
There's something I think I heard. So I want to try it by you. They knew that you believed in them.
Yeah.
So you used the word empowered and all those things you did.
Yeah.
And as you did all those things, if you believe in me, then it's pretty safe to make myself vulnerable.
Right. That's true. And making sure it was a safe space.
Yeah.
They didn't need me sitting in there and glaring in their face. It was like, okay, I trust that what you all are doing is being done in the best interest of students.
I'm wondering what thoughts you have about your role in creating future leaders who may serve other districts the same way the districts you worked in gave you the opportunity to step into this role.
Yeah, I take that role as a mentor for future leaders seriously. And, we're a small district, but we're also a young administrative team. I want to say 60% of my administrative team is new to the district, and we still have people who want to make changes administratively, with the roles that they're holding, and that's fine. I'm here to help support that. I'm not here to be a barrier. So I try to give people authentic experiences. I try to give them the empowerment to go ahead and learn different things. Right now, for example, with my assistant superintendent, if he's presented with a problem, I try to give him enough structure so that he can solve it, but I'm there to help coach him through it and say, have you considered this? Did you look at the law? Have you looked at the law book? What does our policy say? And talking him through it, but then still having enough faith and empowering him so that he can go forward and do the work that is necessary to support whatever it is. So I feel like giving them that experience, but also being there as proverbial training wheels sometimes, will allow them to develop those skills so that they can be successful in whatever role they want to achieve.
Well, it's been a great pleasure chatting with you. And before we close out, I'm wondering if you've got any parting thoughts for other people somewhat new to the superintendency, and maybe equally for people who are thinking about moving in that direction.
So I would suggest if you want to be a superintendent, you should really do some deep soul searching. It's not one of those things that are embraced by the faint of heart. But it's a rewarding, wonderful job that, is very, very unique depending on your district. But you get such reward and such fulfillment at the end of the day. Some days you're going to come home and you're going to be exhausted and you're just going to collapse on the couch. But there's no place I'd rather be, right? I love the role. I love being able to do what I do. And I feel it's a privilege to be able to do that where I am doing it. And I would suggest that if you're making that mental consideration to do this, that you think about it in terms of what it means professionally. Like, remember, it's one of those things that's fast paced. And in the end, if you need to make a decision, many times it's your decision. You can't call somebody. You can't call your training wheels. There are no training wheels. You're it. So keep that in mind. But if you're ready and there's a district that's the best fit, then jump in. The great thing is about the superintendency is we are all supporting one another. We all recognize the importance of the work that we do, and it's amazing how many networks exist to try and support each other as we do this work.
Well, part of the pleasure of having this conversation with you is being able to hear the passion that you have for what you're doing, and thank you. I know kids are being well served by that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I truly, authentically love what I do.